This show is brought to you by Safety FM.
Welcome to the Rated our safety show, where the truth burns louder than the noise. Fire in the static, breaking through the haze. Dr. J. Allen's voice cuts like a blade. No sugar, no fluff, just raw and brave.
The following program is rated MA-LSV. It contains strong language, sexual situations, and violence. It is intended only for mature audiences.
Finally, show with the balls to call it like it is. Rated R Safety Show on Safety FM.
Countdown to audio torture.
The Rated R Safety Show starts in 3, 2, 1.
Let the eardrum pain begin.
Forget the corporate bullshit. This is the Rated R Safety Show with your host, Dr. It doesn't matter who the host is.
Oh, yes, and another yes. It does not matter who the host is. What has always mattered is who the listeners are. Anyways, today is Friday, July the 24th of 2026, and we are broadcasting from the Safety FM studios in Orlando, Florida, and coming across the multiverse known as Safety FM, and then hanging out with our friends and colleagues over there.
Freeform Radio never sounded this great. Or has it? Radio big.
Yep, that's how it goes. That's how we move. That's how we groove. We get to do all kinds of fun stuff as we are hanging out. So anyways, how's the last 24 hours or so been for you? Hopefully they've been grandioso in regards of everything that's going on. No, seriously, I'm not joking. So with that being said, let's talk about what we do. Our show normally consists of safety in the news and safety, but you got here on a special day, which is Friday. So what does that mean for you? Well, it kind of means some of that weird stuff. Today is Freeform Friday, so what does that mean? We talk about everything that we did not get to catch up earlier in the week. Well, hopefully we try to get through the whole thing. Most of the times we don't get to everything that's inside of there because that's just kind of how it goes.
Duh.
So with that being said, here's what's going to happen today. We're going to do catch up with everything. A lot of news stories coming your way. A lot of stuff to unpack that we didn't get to unpack earlier in the week. And then hopefully at some point you turn around and go, yep, this is working out. We can do this. We can continue forward. So with that being said, why don't we go ahead and do this? Because I have to tell you, this is not a joke as I say this. This might be my favorite weekly section. Well, yeah, because I have to tell you, there's so much work that goes in behind the scene with this. So why don't we go ahead and do this before we get into it? Let me tell you, if you want to interact with the show, it's simple to do so. All you have to do is go to callinradio.com. Once you get there, audio, video, and text messaging are the options of the things that we get to do, and then we kind of go from there. That's it. That is the whole kit and caboodle of everything that's going on. So there you go. There you go. Did I play this for you?
Well, there you are.
Guys, it's finally Friday.
Oh my gosh.
I'm super excited.
I need a cup of coffee.
Today is Friday, Friday, Friday.
Yippee-ki-yay and all that stuff.
You listen and use your imagination to make the pictures in your head.
I like what I'm hearing.
I'm ready for the show.
Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and get into what we call the actual week in review aspect of the whole thing. So let's do that right now.
The severe and dangerous weather taking aim all across the South. Tropical storm Bertha hitting the Gulf states right now, and thankfully not as strong as feared, but still packing a punch.
The arson attack outside a federal building in New York City Monday. The suspect, identified as 43-year-old Andrew Arabaka, allegedly seen igniting fireworks, setting off numerous flares. Some people in the distance take cover, while two others seem to walk right by. Moments later, you see the suspect pull out a pellet gun rifle and shoot it down the block at pedestrians. Next, he is seen with what investigators say is a can of gasoline. This new video shows the large fire that set off.
4 fallen U.S. soldiers arrived back on U.S. soil today after making the ultimate sacrifice. President Trump saluting at Dover Air Force Base in Delaware, all 4 killed in recent days, 3 in Jordan, 1 in Iraq, as attacks from both the U.S. and Iran continue.
The U.S. war in Iran, Secretary Pete Hegseth revealing the war has now cost more than $37 billion.
The famous New Orleans raised saxophonist behind the Pink Panther theme has died. Plas Johnson died just 6 days before his birthday in California. He was 94 years old.
The latest on that parasite sickening people in more than 30 states. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. made his first public comments about it today, declaring the outbreak under control despite cases still rising and denying that cutbacks have hurt U.S. food safety.
I want to congratulate Spain on defeating Argentina to win the tournament. Yeah, it was a great day for Spain's players, fans, and your annoying friend who studied abroad for 1 semester.
Cases of measles have skyrocketed to the biggest numbers in decades. At this point, the only thing multiplying faster than measles right now is Nick Cannon.
Okay, so there you go. There's the week in review of everything that's going on. That is for sure. So what do you think? I'm telling you, there's so much stuff that happens during the week that when that clip gets put together, I'm always like, wow. I'm just amazed on the stuff that I didn't catch sometimes is really what it boils down to. So with that being said, why don't we go ahead and do this? Let's go ahead and get into some stuff from our friends from Feature Story News, because they know what's going on. At least I feel like they know what's going on. Half the time, I have no clue what's happening until they start talking about everything. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the news right now.
Here is the news on the Rated R Safety Show.
From Feature Story News in London, I'm Stuart Smith. Protesters are gathering across India on Friday as the youth-led Cockroach Janta Party has called for demonstrations in every district, demanding the resignation of the Education Minister over an exam paper leak scandal. The Indian government has deployed 20 companies of Central Reserve Police to the capital, and Delhi Metro has shut at least 16 stations as crowds swell near the main protest site. Ishan Garg in New Delhi says that while a compromise venue for talks may be emerging, the government is widely reported to be unwilling to meet the protesters' central demand.
The Cockroach Janata Party, they are saying that their core demand, which is resignation of the Education Minister, that still stands. Apart from, of course, the other big demand, which is a payment of compensation payment of 100,000 US dollars, or about 10 million Indian rupees, to the so-called victims of the paper leaks, in which more than a dozen students killed themselves after the paper had leaked. So their key demands still remain.
New American tariffs of up to 12.5% on 60 of the country's trading partners have taken effect, covering virtually all goods imported into the United States. The duties replace a global 10% tariff that expired on Friday after reaching its statutory limit, and are designed to stand on firmer legal ground after the Supreme Court struck down the earlier tariff regime in February. The administration claims the new levies target countries that have failed to prevent goods made with forced labour from entering global trade. Kate Fisher reports from Washington.
I'm sure they will be challenged, but this is a slightly stronger legal basis than the way Donald Trump previously tried to introduce tariffs that the Trump administration relied on previously. I think the fact that these tariffs are essentially replacing almost like for most countries, then the immediate economic impact is going to be smaller, because businesses have already adjusted supply chains and pricing and inventory around that kind of baseline tariff.
The European Commission has fined Google around $1 billion for 2 breaches of the Digital Markets Act, the first penalties ever imposed on the tech giant under EU competition law. The Commission found Google had unfairly promoted its own services in search results and had prevented app developers from directing customers to cheaper alternatives outside the Google Play Store. Google has pushed back, with Alphabet's president of global affairs saying the ruling continues to break everyday products, and Washington is also concerned. Will Denslow reports from Brussels.
We know that the Trump administration has long railed against European regulators, so the message is clear from the Commission. They say that anyone can do business here in Europe. They're not seeking to put up barriers, but the takeaway for the Commission is that anyone, wherever you may be located, have to play by the rules.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. With President Donald Trump threatening to attack Iran's bridges and power plants, civilian targets, the destruction of which could be construed as war crimes, and Iran launching attacks on desalination plants in neighbouring countries, also possible war crimes, there are growing fears that the conflict could spiral. When it started back in March, a group of international lawyers and professors wrote a collective letter warning of the risk of war crimes. Now one of them, Professor Tom Dannenbaum at Stanford University, is sounding the alarm again.
We're certainly in a moment where the language of international law is being disparaged and where it's being ignored by some of the most powerful actors in the system. In response to that, I don't think that the correct reaction is to capitulate and say, what use is invoking law in response here? I think law is the most powerful focal point around which to mobilize collectively in response to these kinds of acts, to say these are the red lines to which we've all agreed, and these violations render the conduct of the party to the conflict that's engaged in them illegitimate and demand a collective response.
And of course there are already claims that war crimes may have been committed, as the Pentagon says it is still investigating an attack on a girls' school that killed 168 people, mostly children, at the very start of the conflict. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
To recap the top stories, protesters are gathering across India demanding the resignation of the education minister over an exam paper leak. Metro stations have been closed and thousands of extra police deployed in the capital, New Delhi. Over 20,000 visitors and residents have been evacuated from a nature reserve in southwestern France as hundreds of firefighters try to bring a wildfire under control. And Washington has imposed new tariffs on over 60 trade partners as the price of oil passes $100 for the first time since May. That's the latest feature story news. Stuart Smith reporting.
Listen to our host of the Rated R Safety Show self-implode on our airwaves, only on Safety FM.
In safety, in my opinion, you woke up. You saw the system, the simulation, the structure that trained you to mistake compliance for care. Safety mutation. Information misdirection picks up where the signal fractured. Because the system didn't shut you down, it rebranded you. It packaged your voice, sold your rebellion as a new initiative, and smiled while doing it. This isn't a manual. It's a decoded transmission about what happens when slogans replace stories, when safety becomes marketing, and when truth gets mirrored so perfectly, you forget it was ever yours. You'll see the mutation. Learning teams turned into theater, zero harm turned into optics, and feedback turned into formatting. But the signal didn't die. It was redirected. Safety Mutation is Book 2 of the Signal Transmission Trilogy. Available now in print, Kindle, and audiobook. Narrated by the author J. Allen, Ph.D. Because the system adapted. Now it's your move.
Let's start using cutting-edge warp speed 5G technology with your cell phone. Let me tell you about my friends at mobilemobile.io. They have an ultra-fast 4G LTE and 5G network that covers 99% of Americans. So they've got you covered everywhere. Think about it for a moment. You have the opportunity to take a test drive for 10 days with unlimited talk, text, and premium premium data. What is premium data? Premium data is an allotment of a cellular data that you receive from a higher priority on the network. You won't get throttled like you will with some of those, well, non-brand service providers. To find out more information, all you have to do is go to mobilemobile.io. That's mobilemobile.io to start your 10-day free trial.
Hello. Is your safety training old, stale, and hacked? Is your safety trainer still preaching a warped version of behavior-based safety? How about safety training that actually addresses your hazards in your workplaces and is not standardized baloney from 25 years ago? Contact the Safety Wars team at safetywars.com or call Jim Posel at 845-269-5772. Remember, if you're receiving this message, you are the solution to unsafe workplaces.
It's the show, and they just make fun of a whole bunch of people. It's just too funny. It's too stupid.
Rated R Safety Show.
Okay, there you go. We are hanging out here on this lovely Freeform Friday. No doubt about that, of everything that's going on inside of the world of the multiverse. So if you're good with that, let's start rolling right away about some of the things that are going on inside of the multiverse of things. So let's get into some of these things, because there was a lot of stuff that happened. Let's kind of go through what has occurred with some of the news stories that I saw yesterday, and then we'll kind of go into some of the backfiller stuff that we didn't get to really talk about. So, new details have been released about the first ransom note sent to family of NBC's Today Show co-anchor Savannah Guthrie after her mother, Nancy Guthrie, was abducted from the Tucson, Arizona home in February. The note claimed that Nancy was alive and being held for ransom, demanded millions of dollars in Bitcoin, and warned that if payment wasn't made in a specific deadline, that she would be killed. It was also told to the family that Nancy's life is in your hands, and insisted that there would be no negotiation or help from law enforcement. According to the local Arizona journalists, the note included details about the crime scene that had not been made public, information that initially led investigators to believe that it had come from someone involved in the kidnapping. Despite months of investigation by the FBI, the local authorities, no suspects have been identified, no arrests have been made, and the case remains unsolved. So what do you think here? I mean, February, and now we're in July. I know we're talking about it still, but I for sure, when this came up, I'm pretty sure that I thought that this would be one of these things that within the first 48 hours, something would be done. It does not look like that will be the case. But man, it has been a very interesting thing overall in regards to seeing this. So it's terrible. I mean, it's terrible in regards of the stuff that has happened there, no doubt. So with that being said, I don't know what will be the next steps, especially with it being 5 months in. So I don't know. Kind of gets weird as we are talking. So let's continue going through some of the stuff that is happening. And, you know, sometimes we talk about sports stuff, but I like to talk about sports stuff when it gets weird, and this will definitely fall into that category. Jake Paul says that he's serious about trying to play in the NFL once his boxing career is over, and he believes that making the league would be quite easy. Paul says that he wants to play a slot receiver and has even considered first walking on to Stanford football team to gain experience before pursuing the NFL. In a new interview, Paul claimed that he has better hands and is faster, stronger, and works harder than many NFL players, adding that there's a lot of super mediocrity in the league. He also says that he's already spoken with a couple of NFL teams and coaches who have expressed interest. If he gets the chance, Paul said that his dream destination would be his hometown of Cleveland Browns. For now, though, he's focused on recovering from the jaw injury and hopes to return to boxing ring later this year. Take a listen.
I do have NFL aspirations. Oh, wow. After boxing, I want to play slot receiver. And so I think to, get that experience in college first would be good, so I could walk onto the Stanford team. I'm being serious though. Yeah.
Well, this might be the first podcast you mention it, so
it is. And it happened. The idea of it happened today because I was like, well, I was originally thinking I'll just go straight to the Cleveland Browns or Dallas Cowboys, but they're probably going to want to see me play first, and so it might be better if I start off in college and have a little bit of an advantage over the younger, not as big kids before going into the NFL.
Okay, so hold on real quick. I just want to make sure I understand this. So you decided today that you were going to go into the NFL. And listen, I'm not saying that it's not something you can do, but you decided today, before this podcast, that was something you were wanting to do. And it's going to be very valuable, and you decided that this is going to be the position, and you haven't tried anything. And you already have a couple of teams that are interested, but you only talked about it today. Okay, yeah.
More sarcasm than a Mortal Kombat beatdown. Rated R safety show.
Okay, so there you go. A lot of stuff going on inside of the world of the multiverse. As always, Vance Boylter has been sentenced to 2 consecutive life plus 40 years in federal prison for the 2025 shooting that killed Minnesota Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark, as seriously wounded State Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette. The sentence was part of a plea agreement in which Boylter pleaded guilty and had prosecutors agree not to seek the death penalty. Authorities said the Boylter disguised himself as a police officer before carrying out the attack, which also included attempted shooting on Hoffman's adult daughter. During the sentencing, Vance apologized to the victims and their families, while John and Yvette Hoffman gave emotional statements describing the attack and its lasting impact. Vance still faces state murder charges, and the Hoffman family has also filed a civil lawsuit against him. The shooting sparked renewed concern about political violence and had led to an increase measures where officials in Minnesota and other states. So some stuff to think about as we are talking. So I do not know. It definitely will get interesting as we are moving forward. Okay, take a listen to this real quick, as why would we not talk about this? A Secret Service agent assigned to Vice President J.D. Vance, protective detail, has reportedly been placed on administrative leave after allegedly leaking information about Vance's travel schedule and security operations to the media. The report included details about Vice President's family travel plans and the Secret Service codename used for Vance, and the complaints from agents about the frequent last-minute schedule changes. White House and Secret Service officials viewed the leak as serious security breach and launched an internal investigation, and the agent identified has not been released, and it's unclear whether the case will result in disciplinary action or criminal charges. The investigation comes as Trump administration continues its crackdown on unauthorized leaks to the press. What do you think here? I mean, regardless of political situation, that's pretty serious. I mean, it's not one of those things like, oops, I did it by mistake.
Duh.
So, I mean, it's one of those things that you have to have the discussion and go like, what exactly were you thinking? Like, what are you thinking in regards to doing this? Because that makes absolutely no sense. What kind of are you? I mean, I just need to understand. Like, how in the do you go out there and say this stuff? I'm just saying. So there you go. Some info to share. Okay, so let's take a listen to this one real quick. Travis Kelce's fans are buzzing after the Hall of Fame wide receiver Chris Carter appeared to hint about that the upcoming NFL 2026 season could be Kelce's last. Carter posted a photo of himself training with Kelce and wrote, "No, the GOAT is preparing for the last dance. The next stop, Canton, Hall of Fame." Leading many to believe that he accidentally revealed to Kelce's retirement plans. The post didn't sit well with fans who argue that Kelce should be one to announce when he's ready to retire. Some accused Carter of stealing the moment, especially since Kelce has previously said that he doesn't want a farewell tour or extra attention during the season. Kelce hasn't confirmed the retirement plans after speculation earlier this year. He signed a one-year deal to return to Kansas City Chiefs in March. So there you go. What do you think? Like, is it important? Is it not important? I mean, if they're already revealing quote unquote, that you've only signed for a year? I mean, are you really telling some kind of trade secret there? So maybe it's his last year with Kansas City. Who knows if he's going to continue playing? I mean, I think that right now, and I'm not picking here, between what he's accomplished in the NFL, what kind of currency he's obtained, and the amount of fortune that his wife has, which I would imagine they share to some extent now, I think he's going to be okay. I mean, if the guy wants to work and play one more year, cool. If he doesn't want to do that, wants to do something entirely different, good for him. It's not that crazy of an idea. I'm just saying. So anyways, with that being said, let's continue talking. Federal prosecutors have dropped their effort to subpoena the New York Times reporter over the stories about President Trump's new Air Force One. The subpoena sought reports of testimonies along with their phone and text records as part of an investigation into reporting about security concerns involving Qatar-provided presidential aircraft. During a hearing in a federal court, the U.S. District Judge sharply criticized the Justice Department for handling the case, calling the approach to press freedom protection sloppy, and saying that he likely would have thrown out the subpoenas if prosecutors hadn't withdrawn them first. He also suggested that the government's actions the government actions are not something that he would continue discussing at that particular point. It was serious enough that the sanction might have been considered a civil case. The New York Times argued the subpoenas threatened press freedom and discouraging reporting on government operations and spending. The judge emphasizes the subpoenas targeting the journalists should be used only as the last resort after every other avenue obtaining information had been exhausted. So what do you think here? No, seriously, what is your thought? I mean, we're in that weird time, and let's just not lie here. We're in that weird time right now that it goes, okay, are we going to move forward? Are we not going to move forward? It's kind of a weird one. It's just one of those really, really weird things to discuss. So there you go. Okay, I'm going to tell you two that we would normally not report until we get into the other show, but I think that it's kind of important to discuss. So if you're good with this, let's go ahead and talk about it for just a brief moment, if you do not mind. Take a listen to this, because one of Apple's staple shows is going bye-bye. Apple has announced that the morning show will wrap up with its upcoming 5th season, bringing one of the streaming service's original flagship series to a close. Starring Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon, the newsroom drama debuted back in 2019 alongside with the launch of Apple TV Plus, and has become the platform's signature show. Season 5 is currently in production and will feature stars like Jennifer Aniston, Reese Witherspoon, Billy Crudup, John Hamm, and Mark Duplass, along with newcomers Jeff Daniels, Jesse Williams, Sean Hayes, just to name a few. Apple says that the creative team knew that it would be the final chapter, allowing them to craft a planned ending for the characters. While the official premiere date hasn't been announced, the final season is expected to debut in 2027. So that's it. I mean, I don't know if you've ever watched the show. I don't think it's a bad show. And it kind of mirrored some of the stuff that was going on down in good old NBC land. It's at some point, at least the first season of the show, based on, well, let me rephrase that. Allegedly, it kind of resembled some of the stuff that was going on at NBC at the time. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they handle this going forward, because that's going to be the curiosity part. How are people going to adapt? Now, what show will become the flagship show over there at Apple? I mean, there's so many good shows that Apple has produced. That's going to be the interesting part. I mean, some people love Ted Lasso, like say that it's the greatest show that they've ever seen. Now, I'm personally not a fan, but that's me. That show is not for me, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not picking here. I'm just saying in general, that show is not for me. And Severance is another show that a lot of people seem to love in regards of coming off of Apple land over there. So there you go. Some things to think about depending on how you want to lay out the land there. No doubt about that. So with that being said, let's continue talking about some other things. So take a listen to this. As Japan deals with another brutally hot summer, a company has introduced what's being called the human refrigerator. The Doe Hicksman box is about the size of a vending machine and allows one person at a time to step inside for a quick cool down. Kept at 59 degrees, the unit blasts cold air into the user's head, neck, shoulders, and back to help lower their temperature and reduce the risk of exhaustion. The device is aimed primarily for outdoor workers, including construction crews, but one of the units already been installed in a city hall where the public can use it for free. With temperatures approaching 100 degrees and the heat-related illnesses on the rise, the company hopes cooling both can offer a fast relief, and the human refrigerator sells. Are you ready for this? I hope you're sitting. $9,300. $9,300. Yeah. Talk about getting a little bit crazy there in regards to this. So there you go. Let's talk about this real quick. Coming out of Ontario, a routine trip with a mechanic turned out to an unexpected animal rescue in Ontario when a large python was discovered trapped inside of the engine compartment of a resident's car. Animal services officers responded to the call, and everyone was surprised. The snake calmly slithered onto the officer's arm, allowing it for a safe and easy rescue. The python was taken to an animal shelter where the staff found it was dehydrated and had a few minor scratches. Glad that was the only thing that thing had, especially being stuck in an engine. The snake is now recovering while officials work to determine where it came from to ensure that it receives proper care. What does that have to do with one thing has to do with the other? I'm just wondering. Okay, take a listen to this one because, the world of the weird doesn't ever stop. A New York City woman says that she thought that she had scored the ultimate sidewalk fine, but it turns out that the trip to jail. Jocelyn Ullman was arrested after taking several handmade vintage rugs worth about $4,300 outside of a Brooklyn shop. Ullman says that she's an avid stopper, whatever that means, someone who rescues discarded items left on the curb, and believed that the dirty rugs, some rolled up on the sidewalk and others draped over a railing, had been thrown away. A week later, after seeing the news reports identifying her, Ullman contacted an attorney, recovered the rugs from a client, and voluntarily turned them over to the police. Despite returning the rugs, she says that she was handcuffed, fingerprinted, photographed, and spent 7 hours in custody before being released. Prosecutors later dropped the grand larceny charge and cleared a record. The shop owner said that she never wanted Ullman arrested and had only filed a police report in hopes of getting the rugs back after placing them outside for dry following a flood inside of the store. That's where it gets weird to me. Like, have you ever went down a neighborhood and you kind of see where people put stuff outside, and I don't know if they're considering a trash day or if it's going to be like a pickup thing, and then randos will just come up and take the stuff? I have a neighbor that was outside that was painting a chair and was letting it sit to dry, and somebody came up trying to take it as it was drying, as the chair was drying in their yard, because somebody thought that it was just a grab. It's weird times. I don't ever get it, but I guess those things happen. Anyways, with that being said, we are 33 minutes past the top of the hour. It is Freeform Friday, so you get a lot of news from me today in regards to the stuff that's going on. So with that being said, why don't we go ahead and do this? Why don't we bring in our friends from Feature Story News, una vez más, to go ahead and tell you what exactly is going on with the news stories.
Here is the news on the Rated R Safety Show.
From Feature Story News in London, I'm Stuart Smith. Protesters are gathering across India on Friday as the youth-led Cockroach Janta Party has called for demonstrations in every district, demanding the resignation of the Education Minister over an exam paper leak scandal. The Indian government has deployed 20 companies of Central Reserve Police to the capital, and Delhi Metro has shut at least 16 stations as crowds swell near the main protest site. Ishan Garg in New Delhi says that while a compromise venue for talks may be emerging, the government is widely reported to be unwilling to meet the protesters' central demand.
The Cockroach Janata Party, they are saying that their core demand, which is resignation of the Education Minister, that still stands. apart from, of course, the other big demand, which is a payment of compensation payment of 100,000 US dollars, at about 10 million Indian rupees, to the so-called victims of the paper leaks, in which more than a dozen students killed themselves after the paper had leaked. So their key demands still remain.
New American tariffs of up to 12.5% on 60 of the country's trading partners have taken effect, covering virtually all goods imported into the United States. The duties replace a global 10% tariff that expired on Friday after reaching its statutory limit, and are designed to stand on firmer legal ground after the Supreme Court struck down the earlier tariff regime in February. The administration claims the new levies target countries that have failed to prevent goods made with forced labour from entering global trade. Kate Fisher reports from Washington.
I'm sure they will be challenged, but this is a slightly stronger legal basis than the way Donald Trump previously tried to introduce tariffs that the Trump administration relied on previously. I think the fact that these tariffs are essentially replacing almost like for most countries, then the immediate economic impact is going to be smaller, because businesses have already adjusted supply chains and pricing and inventory around that kind of baseline tariff.
The European Commission has fined Google around $1 billion for 2 breaches of the Digital Markets Act, the first penalties ever imposed on the tech giant under EU competition law. The Commission found Google had unfairly promoted its own services in search results and had prevented app developers from directing customers to cheaper alternatives outside the Google Play Store. Google has pushed back, with Alphabet's president of global affairs saying the ruling continues to break everyday products, and Washington is also concerned. Will Denslow reports from Brussels.
We know that the Trump administration has long railed against European regulators, so the message is clear from the Commission. They say that anyone can do business here in Europe. They're not seeking to put up barriers, but the takeaway for the Commission is that anyone, wherever you may be located, have to play by the rules.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. With President Donald Trump threatening to attack Iran's bridges and power plants, civilian targets, the destruction of which could be construed as war crimes, and Iran launching attacks on desalination plants in neighbouring countries, also possible war crimes, there are growing fears that the conflict could spiral. When it started back in March, a group of international lawyers and professors wrote a collective letter warning of the risk of war crimes. Now one of them, Professor Tom Dannenbaum at Stanford University, is sounding the alarm again.
We're certainly in a moment where the language of international law is being disparaged and where it's being ignored by some of the most powerful actors in the system. In response to that, I don't think that the correct reaction is to capitulate and say, what use is invoking law in response here? I think law is the most powerful focal point around which to mobilize collectively in response to these kinds of acts, to say these are the red lines to which we've all agreed, and these violations render the conduct of the party to the conflict that's engaged in them illegitimate and demand a collective response.
And of course there are already claims that war crimes may have been committed, as the Pentagon says it is still investigating an attack on a girls' school that killed 168 people, mostly children, at the very start of the conflict. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
To recap the top stories, protesters are gathering across India demanding the resignation of the education minister over an exam paper leak. Metro stations have been closed and thousands of extra police deployed in the capital, New Delhi. Over 20,000 visitors and residents have been evacuated from a nature reserve in southwestern France as hundreds of firefighters try to bring a wildfire under control. And Washington has imposed new tariffs on over 60 trade partners as the price of oil passes $100 for the first time since May. That's the latest feature story news. Stuart Smith reporting.
Bringing you information you never knew you cared about. Rated R Safety Show.
This portion of the show has been sponsored by Private Internet Access, America's #1 virtual private network, or VPN. Even if you use incognito mode, internet service providers is storing your browser data and many times even selling it. But Private Internet Access, or PIA, can help you. PIA encrypts and reroutes your internet traffic through one of its own servers, hiding your data from your internet service provider or network admin. And with servers in over 75 countries, you can get unrestricted access to geo-blocked content from around the world. PIA comes with easy-to-use apps and browsers extension for all devices, a rock-solid privacy policy, open source security, advanced customization settings, and it was just ranked the fastest VPN in the world by PC Magazine. And if you sign up right now with PIA, you can take advantage of a special deal only for Safety FM listeners. Only by using the following link, you can get the digital privacy for less than $2 a month. Yes, you did hear me correctly, less than $2 a month, and an extra 4 months for free. So that means for only $1.98 a month and 83% off, you can get this service for you right now. That's so much more inexpensive than virtually every other VPN on the market. And if you get it right now, you can take PIA's 30-day risk-free challenge. You can try it out for 30 days, see if you like it, and if not, just return it for a full refund. So just go to safetyfm.com/VPN. That's safetyfm.com/VPN to try out the best VPN on the planet completely risk-free. Now remember, safetyfm.com/VPN.
You've seen the loop. You've felt the shift. The script doesn't fit anymore, and neither do you. Safety transmission. The collapse of the construct is the third and final signal in the trilogy from J. Allen, PhD. And this time, it's not about waking up. It's about what you do once you're awake. The system didn't break. It just stopped pretending to hold you. And now it's blinking, rebranding presence, packaging resistance, and calling it progress. This book isn't a guide. It's a transmission. It doesn't teach the system how to evolve. It shows you how to stop performing for it. You'll see what happens when awareness becomes responsibility, when audits don't listen, and when leadership becomes a loop. But if you've made it this far, you're not here to be managed. You're here to carry signal. Safety transmission. The collapse of the construct. Now available in print, Kindle, and audiobook. Narrated by J. Allen, PhD. Because if it couldn't hold your signal, it was never real to begin with.
Do you have a claim and not sure where to turn? Coastal Claim Consultants are professionally licensed and bonded public insurance adjusters employed exclusively by you, the policyholder, to represent you after sustaining an insured loss. They assist policyholders in all aspects of processing the claim, working closely with the insured to provide the most equitable and timely settlement possible. They will provide you with comprehensive service, anything from inspecting the loss site, analyzing damages, compiling claim support data, reviewing applicable coverages, assessing replacement costs of damages, and negotiating your settlement. The adjusters at Coastal Claim Consultants will evaluate your claim for no upfront cost whatsoever. Coastal Claim Consultants' fee is based on contingency contracts and are paid when the insurance company sends you a check and it's in your possession. Coastal Claim Consultants are licensed to assist you in the following states: Florida, Texas, Oklahoma, Georgia, and South Carolina. For more information, go to coastal-cc.com. That's coastal-cc.com. For more information, lighting the way to recovery. Coastal Claim Consultants.
Friday. Proof that miracles really do happen every 7 days.
Let's start using cutting-edge warp speed 5G technology with your cell phone. Let me tell you about my friends at mobile.io. They have an ultra-fast 4G LTE and 5G network that covers 99% of Americans. So they've got you covered everywhere. Think about it for a moment. You have the opportunity to take a test drive for 10 days with unlimited talk, text, and premium premium data. What is premium data? Premium data is an allotment of a cellular data that you receive from a higher priority on the network. You won't get throttled like you will with some of those, well, non-brand service providers. To find out more information, all you have to do is go to mobilemobile.io. That's mobilemobile.io to start your 10-day free trial.
Hello.
Radio Big, mastering the art of putting music on shuffle. Radio Big.
No sugar, no fluff, just raw and brave. The truth's got teeth and it won't behave. Disinclined and safety lost. The grind don't stop. The grind don't stop. Ready, our safety show.
Okay, here we go. We are calling this one the Rated R Safety Show Anthem, as we are 45 minutes past the top of the hour on this lovely Freeform Friday. Yep, not available anywhere. Yeah, we're bringing the tones down. So there you go.
There goes in the white, crawling through the night. Questions left unanswered.
Okay, so there you go. Let's go ahead and move forward. Appreciate that one. I really do. For some reason, we get to do some of this music stuff internally. I think it's kind of fun to do. And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that we have a full band here. No. This is all computer program stuff. Is the way that it's working. Okay, so with that being said, let's continue going down the path here and talking about the most important thing that I will ever tell you in my lifetime, and that's about my friends at To Write Love on Her Arms. No matter what you're facing, you deserve to be connected to help, and we want you to know that people have been where you are now and that things can get better. Healing is possible. To find out more information, all you have to do is go to TWLOHA.com. That's TWLOHA.com and click on the section that says Find Help. Once you get there, you'll see all kinds of information related to addiction, depression, anxiety, eating disorder, self-injury, suicide, trauma, grief support, just to name a few. That's TWLOHA.com. To Write Love on Her Arms. Gonna tell you, you can go there and it can change a lot of things for you. I'm not saying that jokingly. I'm saying that very seriously in regards to what's going on. No, it's one of those very interesting times where you can go to a website, see so much information, and determine what step you want to take next. Either you want to be involved, you don't want to be involved, you can purchase, you can donate, you can find information, you can just do an array of things in that particular website. So there you go. Just some things to give some consideration to as you are moving forward. Okay, with that being said, let's continue talking about some other things that are going on inside of the multiverse. And I'm going to tell you, should I say this right now or not? I think that we should do this a little bit differently, because it's one of those things that I know that we normally do what happened in Today in History a little bit later, but I want you to hear this. This is from 12:51 Eastern Daylight Time on July the 24th, 1969. Apollo 11, the U.S. spacecraft, had taken its first astronaut to the surface of the moon and safely returns to Earth. Take a listen to what happens when it splashes down.
You can pick up some of that transmission from the helicopter hovering overhead and the Hornet, and a little bit from the spacecraft. In case you missed it, the spacecraft splashed down 9 miles from the carrier, and the carrier is now steaming toward it.
So just think about that for a moment. 1969, we're taking a look at this. You go from space to crashing into the water. What a difference that can be in regards to some of the stuff when you kind of really think about it for a moment. Crazy times, that's for sure.
You're locked into the radio show that has no filter, especially on Fridays.
I kind of feel like we have no filter regardless of the day of the week that it is, but we'll leave that for a different show. Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and do this because there's some stuff going on inside of the world. So with that being said, Motivation Minute time. I do have John Smalls waiting to tell you about what the hell's going on. So let's go ahead and get into the Motivation Minute right now.
The Motivation Minute. Courtesy of JaceCaseMedical.com. Today's quote was submitted by Philip. John D. Rockefeller said, "Don't be afraid to give up the good to go for the great." This is a great quote. It reminds me of a book that I read about 20 years ago. The book is called Good to Great by Jim Collins. He originally did a different book called Built to Last about giant companies like IBM. But then people were saying, "Hey, dude, what about us? We were not built like that. Can you give us tips on how to take what we have and make it better?" So he accepted the challenge, and he wrote an amazing book that guides you through the stories of companies that were doing okay, but then they made some sort of changes to go from good to great. If you need a nudge to get there, I encourage you to read the book, Good to Great. I'm going to put a link to that book at motivationminute.org. The Motivation Minute. This has been the Motivation Minute. I'm John Small. Thanks for listening. Your favorite motivational quotes can be submitted for upcoming programs at motivationminute.org.
Here is the news on the Rated R Safety Show.
Wildfires ripping through parts of southern and southwestern France have forced mass evacuations and left homes, forests, and power lines damaged amid scorching heat.
Emergency crews say thousands of residents have fled multiple towns and villages and warn more blazes could erupt as Europe's climate-driven heat waves keep drying already tinderbox landscapes. Officials caution that containment will take time, with more firefighting resources and long-term forest management needed to reduce the risk of repeat disasters. Gary Beck reporting.
Thousands of young people in India's capital are continuing a sit-in linked to the so-called cockroach protest movement, pushing back against exam leaks and what they see as deeper government failures.
Demonstrators demand the education minister's resignation and systemic reforms, saying leak scandals have shattered trust and futures for millions of students. Observers note the sustained turnout and nationwide solidarity could force leaders into tougher concessions and faster action on exam security and youth concerns. Kyle Norris reporting.
In southwestern China, officials say the death toll from a powerful landslide has climbed, with dozens of people still missing and rescue teams battling dangerous rubble.
Authorities report the collapse buried homes and left many injured, and they warn search operations will remain difficult and slow as crews sift through unstable debris looking for survivors or additional victims. Lawrence Keller reporting.
Heavy rain and flooding across parts of India, Pakistan, and Afghanistan have killed scores of people and displaced hundreds of thousands, overwhelming local infrastructure and emergency shelters.
Disaster officials say swollen rivers, washed-out roads, and damaged homes are complicating relief work, and they expect more evacuations and longer-term rebuilding as fresh downpours threaten already saturated regions. Jessica Oakley reporting.
Oil prices have surged past the $100 a barrel mark as attacks on tankers in the Red Sea deepen worries about the Iran conflict spilling into global energy supplies.
Analysts say benchmark crude jumped sharply after Iran-aligned forces claimed strikes on Saudi vessels, prompting traders to price in the risk of broader shipping disruption and tighter fuel markets. Chris Anderson reporting.
A man has been critically injured in an apparent hostage situation at a bank in western Germany where a knife-wielding suspect attacked customers before being detained.
Police say the victim died after the assault, and others were held during the standoff, prompting a heavy tactical response and street closures around the branch. Investigators are probing the suspect's motives as they review security measures at local banks and work to reassure anxious residents. Liam White reporting.
Iran tensions, a controversial immigration crackdown, and fresh violence overseas are all in focus as political pressure rises on Washington and its allies across several fronts.
U.S. officials warn that any new attacks on shipping could trigger strikes on key infrastructure, while Iran-backed militants claim fresh hits on vessels in strategic waterways. The standoff is rattling oil markets and deepening fears of a wider regional conflict, with allies urging restraint even as Washington insists it will hold Tehran responsible for future assaults. Benjamin Wright reporting.
5 security personnel are dead and several civilians, including children, are hurt after gunmen and bombers attacked a roadside checkpoint in Thailand's restive south.
The military has launched a manhunt for the attackers, and commanders warn the ambush underscores persistent instability in the region despite years of security operations. Officials say the assault may spur tighter controls, renewed talks, and fresh scrutiny of peace efforts in long-troubled provinces. Kevin Sanders reporting.
And that's the latest news headlines with Alan Edwards.
What do guys like besides pizza and morning sex?
Jay Allen in the morning.
It's so bizarre and unnatural.
It's all good. On Radio Ed.
Okay, so there you go. Currently 54 minutes past the top of the hour. And let's go ahead and talk about some things that happened back on this date. Back in 1701, French make their first landing at the site of Detroit. In 1866, Tennessee becomes the first Confederate state readmitted into the Union. In 1952, President Truman settles 53-day steel strike that was taking place. In 1974, Supreme Court unanimously rules that Nixon must turn over the Watergate tapes. In 1975, Apollo 18 returns to Earth. In 1990, Miss Magazine hits the newsstands after a 8-month hiatus. And in 2019, Facebook agrees to pay $5 billion fines, largest ever for violating consumer privacy, to the U.S. Federal Trade Commission. So there you go. That all happened back on this date. So there you go. What else do we got going on? Let's talk about some celebrity birthdays going on today, if you care about that. Robert Hayes turned 79, Michael Richards 77, Linda Carter turned 75, Pam Tills 69, Barry Bond 62, Lauren Laitman turns 58, Christian Chenoweth turns 58 as well, Jennifer Lopez turns 57, and Rose Byrne turns 47 today, in case you were wondering about any of that stuff. So now you know. Let's talk about some things that you ought to know. The Brickyard 400 NASCAR race airs Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on TNT. Tonight's Mega Million jackpot is for $743 million. Tomorrow's Powerball jackpot is for $600 million. And a lot of Texans got a very unexpected wake-up call yesterday morning when a magnitude 5.0 earthquake shook the Texas Panhandle. The quake hit around 4:21 a.m. Mountain Time, with the epicenter about 23 miles from Spearman. It was strong enough to be felt beyond Texas, with people in Oklahoma, Kansas also reporting shaking. It says that it's the strongest earthquake on record in Texas Panhandle in more than a century. One startled resident summed it up in social media, saying that they woke up thinking the bed was vibrating, only discover it was an earthquake that had struck about an hour away. Fortunately, there were no immediate reports of major damage or injuries. So there you go. There you go. A lot of stuff going on right there as we are talking. Anyways, that's going to sum up our time together. At the top of the hour, I will be going over to radiobig.fm if you want to come and hang out with me for the next couple hours or so. No, seriously, radiobig.fm. All you have to do is go over there and hang out. If you don't, well, by the way, we talk about music and entertainment during the next couple hours over there. That is kind of hour 2 and 3 of the Jay Allen in the Morning Show, just in case. If you don't want to go over there and you want to stay here right here on Safety FM, you can do that. And I always say stay right here on Safety FM because of the studio that I'm in. But if you stay here, you'll hang out with the likes of Sheldon Primus as he talks about the world of safety consulting. That's it. So there you go. That's going to sum it up. If I can give you some words of wisdom for today, those who bring sunshine to the lives of others cannot keep it from themselves. And advice for the day: mice dislike a smell of peppermint. Spread it liberally where you suspect that there's critters. It can change everything for you. Anyways, I know who you are.
Duh.
You know who I am. Love you, mean it, and goodbye. No, seriously, goodbye.
The views and opinions expressed during this broadcast, podcast, or radio show are solely those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Safety FM and/or Radio Big. The content discussed, including examples of analysis, is provided for illustrative purposes only. It should not be applied as the sole solution in real-world scenarios, as it is based on limited and dated open source information. Any assumptions made during this broadcast, podcast, or radio show are not reflective of Safety FM and/or Radio Big. No portion of this broadcast, podcast, or radio show may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, electronic, mechanical, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of Safety FM and/or Radio Big. For permission requests, please contact Safety FM or Radio Big directly.